What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I want to give my post-fight analysis. I'm not going to make this too long based on the caliber of the fights, and I'm stepping out, and I don't want to necessarily waste too much time. But in the first fight on Showtime, we had Gary Russell Jr. I forgot his name of his opponent. I believe he was from Russia. And Gary Russell Jr., in my opinion, he looks solid. I see there's a point in the fight, midway through the fight, where he threw a left and he started to cringe a little bit. And I was wondering, it looked like I was like wondering why he did that, because normally you don't see fighters wince in pain after they throw punches. And I noticed that, and it was later revealed that he injured his hand, but obviously he has to go to the doctors. They have to get X-rays and stuff. So it's possibly broken. So for a portion of the fight, he fought with an injured, possibly broken hand. So props to Gary Russell Jr. for finishing it out. And I don't think some people give these boxers enough credit. I mean, that takes a hell of a lot of dedication to continue doing anything when you're in pain. So I don't know. Imagine breaking your leg and walking on it, or breaking your hand, or even fracturing your hand, and you're continuing to throw hard shots. Obviously, as the fight progressed, he was just on a different skill level, so he was able to beat this guy with one hand for the most part, and he didn't have to use his left hand too much. But it was entertaining. It was they put him in front of someone that didn't have a lot of knockouts. I think the guy had 20 or 21 fights, and he only had 5 KOs. However, he's only been down, I think, 2 times in his career, and it's just a tough opponent. You're not going to be able to knock everyone out. Plus, he was injured, so I don't think that really blemishes Gary Russell's chance to become a problem in the featherweight division. So I like what I've seen from Gary Russell. He shows patience. He mixes up his punches. He shows variety, and he's fast as fuck. I mean, this dude's got incredible speed. At the end, they asked him who he would like to fight. He did mention that he wants to have a couple fights and possibly get a title fight. He said Walma Lopez is who he wants. That's the guy he called out, and he said, I want to make sure he's 100% when we fight, because I don't want no excuses after I beat him. So that's coming from Gary Russell Jr., obviously confident in his skill and his abilities. So I would definitely love to see Walma Lopez. A lot of people will bring up the Orlando Salido fight. Orlando Salido is a tough customer for anybody. I mean, because the guy has a chin, and he's aggressive, and he hits hard. So to lose to a guy and have competitive fights those are possible fight of the year both times when they met. They were excellent fights. So I'd rather lose to a guy who like that. It's not like he lost to a bum or a journeyman or a cab driver. So I don't think Walma Lopez is washed up. He has to get his confidence back. He won his last fight, I think, in the first round by stoppage or KO. So he's on the comeback trail. I would definitely like to see a Gary Russell Jr. get Gary Russell some more fights, and then I would like to see him fight somebody like Mikey Garcia. He could fight the Mexican Russian who just earned a title yesterday. I would definitely like to see him get a title shot sometime soon in the next couple fights, because obviously he's better than these C class fighters and B minus fighters that they've put in front of him. So he has an amateur background. He definitely has a speed and a skill set. I just want to see how he responds to someone like a Salido who hits harder. Does he have a chin? Will his chin stand up? But the jury's still out on that, because we haven't really seen anyone who can catch him, or anyone, I guess, seasoned enough. The opponent that he fought today is definitely a seasoned opponent, but again, it doesn't look like he packed much of a punch based on his KO ratio. So that's as far as that's Gary Russell Jr. He definitely has a lot of good stuff on the horizon, I feel. He's someone to watch out for. And he always has entertaining fights, just his hand speed, his power, his patience. He was doing some amazing body work, so definitely would like to see more of him in the future. And in the main event, you have Richar Abril versus Bogere. And this fight was just wild. It's just wild. As Showtime called it, it was a rough and tumble affair. They said that numerous times. Um, Personally, it's not my favorite type of fight. And I like different types of fights. I like a skilled Like if you were to watch someone like Mayweather or Bernard Hopkins, who takes time and they're technical boxers, I love fights like that. But I also like just all out wars like Brandon Rios versus Mike Alvarado, Mickey Ward or Arturo Gatti, things like that. This was neither of those fights to me. It was just like sloppy and dirty, and I don't know, it just seemed wild, like a circus, like MMA slash wrestling slash boxing. Um, a lot of people complain Richard Abril holds. I think he beat Brandon Rios in the first fight. I'm gonna watch it again after this performance, but I think he did beat Brandon Rios. A lot of people were complaining about the clinching, so I'm gonna take a look at that more in detail. I did notice some holding in this fight from Richard Abril. However, I think it's because Bogere was coming in reckless and wild, and I even posted a tweet. I'll post the tweet on this video, but I feel fighters like that, they if they exercised a little bit more control, then they would look a lot more impressive. But when you're wild and throwing looping, like wing in shots, at least Danny Garcia throws wide, like long range looping shots, but he might miss a few, but then he will connect, like Eric Morales. If you watch that fight, or Amir Khan is a better example. Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan, he was throwing some wild shots and missing, but then when he did connect, it was lights out for Amir Khan. Pretty much, it was he never fully recovered. So with a fighter like Bogere, it's just sloppy to me, and his accuracy was horrible. I think every statistical category that they showed after like the final CompuBox numbers or whatnot on Showtime, I think his accuracy rate was 15% or lower, like 8%, 14%, 15%. Everything was very low. So Richard Abril won this fight via unanimous decision. I would have scored it like that too, because it was a close fight earlier on, but it looked like the Bogere started to get winded and he just didn't have it all together, and he never really did anything to me that warranted him winning the fight, especially during the stretch in the championship rounds. It looks like that's when Abril really started to pull away. Actually, the referee, Russell Mora, took points away from Abril first in the round, and then that was probably one of Richard Abril's better rounds. It looked like he was mad and he got a point taken away from holding. In my opinion, they kind of covered this on Showtime too. I think a point should have been taken away from Bogere way before Richard Abril, because a lot of what Richard Abril was doing was in defense to Bogere's recklessness. He was just coming in wild and crazy and tripping him up and taking down, like, and you could say it's Richard Abril holding, but he was in against Ray Beltran. I just watched that fight because they had it on demand too. He was in there against Beltran, and it was the same thing. He's tripping him up, and then Beltran nailed him with a good shot, and somehow they're both on the ground. That's just the way he fights. He's just reckless. So me personally, fighters like Bogere, K9, I'll watch it, but at the same time, it's not my favorite because it's not even controlled aggression. I like aggressive fighters. Like Adrian Broner is an aggressive fighter. He has an aggressive offense. Even Amir Khan has an aggressive offense. Victor Ortiz, but their accuracy rate of landing is not as crazy. Even though Victor Ortiz is susceptible to getting caught with counters based on the way he fights, his accuracy is not as low as someone like a Bogere. And I don't know, I just like, it just seems too much like a street fight with people that don't know how to fight when I see fighters like K9 or see fighters like Bogere. So it was something to watch, but definitely wasn't my favorite. As far as the 135 category, it looks like Vasquez versus Burns is probably taking place, I think, this month. Richard Abril kept his belt. Adrian Broner has a belt. I said this before, I don't really see anyone messing with Adrian Broner at 135. Some people are saying Broner should fight Richard Abril. Richard Abril has a great jab, and he has the length advantage. I think he's a taller fighter, but I don't think he packs enough power to stop Adrian Broner from coming forward. I don't think he packs enough. He doesn't have enough crack. He doesn't have enough punch to stop. And I mean, he's been in there with people like Brandon Rios and Bogere and hasn't got knocked out. So will Adrian Broner knock him out per se? Who knows? but I still see Broner beating him just because Broner is probably quicker, and he doesn't have issues like Bogere where his accuracy is actually very high. So I picture him getting to Richard Abril, possibly stopping him, if not moving to a unanimous decision. But it would be a puzzle, just like in the same vein of if you watch guys like Nonito Donaire, and Broner. I'm not saying they fight exactly the same, but they both are offensive minded as well. And you can get like Nonito Donaire if you watch him against Narvaez versus Nishioka. Those two fights in particular, Nonito Donaire didn't look spectacular based on the style in which they were fighting. So if Broner were to face Richard Abril, I don't know that he would look as good as he did in like a fight against Gavin Reese or Escobedo or something like that, based on the style of fight. Because Richard Abril would do some clinching. He's going to try to keep range. He's going to try to use movement and that kind of thing. So it would be more or less a puzzle for Broner to figure out. But again, I think in the end, Broner would beat him. I think he's too strong. He's quick. And I think he would just land the more devastating shots, because even Richard Abril's most devastating shots didn't really look like they were going to knock down Bogere, in my opinion. It didn't look like he was in danger of being knocked out. But if you watch Bogere versus Ray Beltran, and Beltran, if you guys are avid fans, you'll know Beltran is a longtime sparring partner of Manny Pacquiao. So I think he sparred with him like for the last 8 years or something like that. But anyway, there's points in the Beltran Bogere fight where it looked like Beltran could have possibly stopped Bogere or at least knocked him down. But there was no points in this fight where I felt Abril was just close to knocking him out. It was just he was outscoring him, outpointing him, outboxing him, and the second half of the fight he pulled away and won more rounds. Later in the fight, they took a point from Bogere for coming in with his head and headbutting and shit. Again, I think everything's a chain reaction. For every cause, there's an effect. And ultimately, I think Bogere was the cause for a lot of the complaints so the order of operations didn't make sense. I feel like if you took a point away from Bogere and he tamed his wild, aggressive, crazy, like coming in shit, then I don't think Richard Abril would have held as much as you've seen him fight. That's just my opinion. So, yeah, I don't really see great things for Bogere. I think he's just too wild and crazy. Anytime you get there, if he gets in there with a technical boxer with some pop, I think it'll be lights out for him. I think he'll probably get knocked out because he comes in too aggressive. And if you look at it, and I'm not comparing Bogere to Pacquiao because I feel Pacquiao is a far better fighter than him. However, coming in reckless and then you get in there against a counter puncher like Marquez did to Pacquiao and he baited him into something and then he caught him with that right, I think Bogere would suffer the same fate. If he gets in there with a counter puncher, someone who's technically gifted, he's going to have a long night. He's going to have problems. And because he comes in awkwardly, I feel he'll at least get knocked down or knocked out because he won't see it coming. Another fighter that does this is Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa is fast himself, but he sets himself up to get knocked down because he comes in at weird, awkward angles and he's off balance. And Bogere just feels like, I don't know, I just feel like he gets tripped up and he's awkward and off balance. So I think a counterpuncher would devastate him. It's my opinion. Talk long enough. The fight was blah. The best fight that I've seen for free or on regular TV was the Kendall Holt and Lamont Peterson. That's the best fight I've seen recently. I like the Orlando Salido and Mikey Garcia. Probably the best. And then I would say in the last 2 weeks, it'd be the Kendall Holt versus Lamont Peterson fight. Let me know what your favorite fight is recently. And that's all I got to say. Let me know your comments. What do you think? Who do you want to see Richard Abril fight? Do you want to see him fight Vasquez, Ricky Burns winner, Broner? Let me know some. Till next video, Ego signing off.